Welcome back to the CNR recap, first ever live. I'm Griffin Aldrich, alongside
Lights went out.
right in the middle of the intro, Andrew. But
Great timing.
that's Andrew right there. If you guys didn't know him, that's Andrew Quinn. I got Tommy Martinotti right next to me as well. Celtics win. Final score 116 to 129, and they shot the lights out, as you just saw with Andrew's lights.
Appreciate good pickup right there. You gotta pick your teammates up. I appreciate Griffin.
Got to. They shot the lights out tonight. But how are we feeling, you guys? Big win by the Boston Celtics, and we'll get into it. Didn't look like it was gonna be a big win a lot of the way. 22 lead changes in the game. But what are our initial thoughts after this? I'm gonna say big win from the Boston Celtics. Andrew, we can start off with you and go to Tommy. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great game. Very nice to see the Celtics knocking down their shots. You know, it was nice to see Hauser hitting some threes. You know, he's been slightly struggling, so to see him find a little momentum is very, very nice to see. Overall, you know, it was a close game, right? And the Celtics sometimes struggle to kind of close out these games, but they did a phenomenal job of doing so. So I'm very, very happy with that. And like you said, shot the lights out. I mean, that's Celtics basketball. That's what we ask for. And I mean, they played very well, phenomenal. I'd also say I really like scoring points in the paint, doing well on that end, and then offensive rebounding, they did well too. So overall, very happy with how they performed.
Yeah, what about you, Tommy?
Yeah, I think a team like Miami, it's always going to be, a more physical game. I think that's kind of the brand of basketball that they like to play. So I knew even without Hero coming into tonight that this wasn't going to be, an easy blowout win for the Celtics. I know the score looks like, the Celtics won by 13, but in reality, it was pretty much a back and forth game through the first three quarters. Miami had a solid third quarter, kind of battling back, cutting it to three at the end of the third. Then the Celtics, who were struggling a little bit early on in the game shooting the ball, but they caught fire in that fourth quarter and were able to extend that lead out and, get a comfortable win over a solid Miami team. They're 15-13 now, but, the Eastern Conference, everyone's kind of close. So any wins you can get kind of to anyone that's around you in the standings, I feel like is good for kind of where the season started for the Celtics and kind of where it seems like they're trending. So good to see them bounce back after two straight losses.
Yeah, and you already mentioned it, Tommy. We're so blessed to even be able to say this, but a couple of years ago, I think there were stretches where it was weird to see the Celtics lose two straight. However, it's gonna I wouldn't say be the norm because they've been proving us otherwise this year, but it's so important to get another win. You started off the season 0-3, and now tonight you bounce back and you don't get that third straight loss. And I was very impressed, and we'll get into it, but like guys like Derek White and even Jaylen Brown, who turned it around later in the game, obviously he wasn't really doing it in a competitive atmosphere because, the game was kind of almost over. But one other thing I was very impressed with is Derek White continuing to pick up the slack. He was doing things to, affect the game at all times and stuff. But I was very, very impressed throughout the game. And I wanted to mention this too. A big thing you saw in the fourth quarter is the Celtics hit 10 3-point shots, the most on a team record. So big for the Celtics right there. And also, did you guys hear Jaylen Brown beat Tommy Heinsohn in points? So big ladder.
Legend. Tommy
Yeah,
Heinsohn.
Congrats to JB on that. That's
JB's
awesome.
moving up the ranks in Celtics.
Did you see Did you see pregame? Isaiah Thomas said they had a little interview going on, and Isaiah Thomas was talking to Scalabrine and Drew Carter.
And great comment there. I wanted to say that too. Getting a dub with Isaiah Thomas in the house is huge. my favorite Celtic of all time personally. He kind of brought this before Isaiah Thomas got there. Obviously, they traded Pierce and Garnett away to Brooklyn for that huge trade. But then they had a couple of really down years, and they kind of traded for Isaiah Thomas from Phoenix, I believe, and he really turned the whole organization around. It felt like got them competitive again, back into the playoffs, almost won an MVP. So many fond memories of Isaiah Thomas in a Celtics uniform. I think, a lot of fans still think the Celtics did him a little bit dirty the way things ended. And, I can't totally disagree with that. But getting a dub with IT in the house was great to see. And it's great to see him come back to the Garden, because I feel like all Celtics fans really, appreciate what he did for the organization.
Yeah, well said. Well said. On a more funny note, IT said, I don't know if JB could ever go back to that flat top.
He's going.
So he was chirping. But if he took the plane to Turkey, maybe the flat top could come back. So you never know. You never know.
And I gotta give credit, and a lot of fans might not like this take, but I don't think we'll ever see an IT jersey retirement. I remember when Drew Holiday had enough respect to say, hey, I called IT before I even chose number 4 because I wanted his approval. But I don't think we'll ever see that. So it was nice they dedicated a night for Isaiah Thomas. I think that's what you're going to get. And you're going to get flashes of those nights from him, because, he's a player that it was that 2016, 2017 season. So it was a small sample size, but, he had the whole weight of the city on his shoulders. And that's important. And that's why he deserved to get his own night, I think.
In some ways, he kept the Celtics culture alive, like that tenacious defense, because that long stretch of time where we're not winning as much, we're not exactly where we want to be, he kind of lifted us up and kept our sight onto something positive and onto something sustainable. So all the flowers go to IT.
Yeah, what were you saying about that, Tommy?
I just all the things that he did while he was in Boston for such a short amount of time, from when he first got there to, when he couldn't even play against Cleveland because of that hip injury in the playoffs. But all the moments of him in the fourth quarter, you knew every game going down the stretch that if your team or if the Celtics were close in that game, you had full confidence because of Isaiah Thomas's ability to close games out. And it's just unfortunate that he wasn't able to stay healthy and kind of see where he could have gone with the Celtics. But, every time he comes back to Boston, when he was with other teams while he was still in the league, and even now, I think, it's always good to see him in the building.
Yeah, well said. And now, you guys, I kind of want to bring up the differentials, because, again, this game was not always, the blowout that the Celtics had at the end of the game. You guys see, Miami kept going in it. They were up 8 with 4:43 in the second quarter. And at times, I thought this game was going to flip the other side. I didn't know if we would even have a Celtics win, because, again, the Heat, started off all right. The Celtics still got that first quarter winning 30-29. However, the Heat struck back in the second, having 29, and the Boston Celtics had 28. And in that third quarter, the Celtics really took a commanding lead, kind of branched off a little bit with 34, and the Miami Heat had 31. But in that last quarter, that's really where you saw the Celtics take off, as they had 37 and the Heat had 27. So they kind of found their rhythm. And, credit to the Heat, playing a back-to-back. But you got to credit guys like JB getting hot in that fourth quarter. You got to credit guys who are playing their hearts out, like Hugo Gonzalez. And I know we probably will get into him later with CNR MVP, maybe discussion with him, but he impressed me tonight, being a rookie playing 29 minutes. And I'll leave the stats up to you guys, but I was impressed at times in this game because it was a full team effort. And we had guys like White shooting great from the beginning, and he was consistent throughout the game. So I like that side of it.
Yeah, they got a lot of contributions tonight. I think Keita, you're not going to see much in the stat sheet from him, but I thought he had a great game all around, strong on the glass, limited out of bio and Ware. Two pretty solid bigs that Miami has that, and they can both rebound really well. And I noticed that Joe Mazzulla went with a lot of small lineups tonight, which caught me by surprise because of, the bigs I just mentioned for Miami, and, the Celtics at times this year struggling to rebound. But, ended up working out. I think they were able to get more spacing out there with a smaller lineup. Had Hugo Gonzalez guarding the bigs, and, Hauser was hitting shots. So he got, some more extended minutes tonight, which was great to see because he's had a bit of a slow start to this season. But, Hugo Gonzalez, like you already said, Griffin, had a great night all over the glass, playing defense at a high level as he always does. But, good to see him kind of get, more minutes, 29 minutes tonight. So he's seeing a 19-year-old play valuable minutes, and, especially when it leads to a win, is great to see because that's just only going to help his confidence on the floor.
And what's so nice about Hugo Gonzalez stepping up and finding a way to make an impact? Walsh didn't have particularly the best game tonight, not in the scoring department and in other areas. And, going to the Pistons game, seeing up close, there's a lot of similarities between Walsh and Hugo Gonzalez. So having two guys that you can kind of mirror each other on the floor and really play the one that's contributing more is very helpful to have. And so having Hugo Gonzalez step up tonight and filling in the shoes for Walsh, that's huge for the Celtics to have in their arsenal.
Oh yeah, well said. And I gotta mention too, like, I think we were very prone, and Andrew, you were the one person that really was like, I don't see him playing in Maine. And I think I convinced a lot of people. I was like, all right, this guy, he's good, but I think we're gonna see him playing in Maine a lot. And he proved the whole Celtics nation that, all right, I'm ready for this competition. I played overseas with players. I would played professional overseas. Like, don't look past me. Like, I'm ready for this competition. And that's true. And I think, it's way too early to say you're going to look back at this draft and be like, all right, he was a steal. But I think we could look back at this draft and be like, and there's going to be moments where we're like, why did we make this pick? And now we're going to look back and call ourselves silly because ultimately this is already one of the best picks.
I mean, you heard Evans when we had on the podcast. You guys go check it out. We had Evans Boston, had PR for the Maine Celtics. Yeah, but we talked about Hugo Gonzalez and the possibility of him ever playing down in Maine. And my impression was Evans did not even think about it in his brain. Like, it wasn't even a possibility that Hugo Gonzalez was going to come down and play for the Maine Celtics. So I think it's really been in the organization. And I think it's nice for Hugo Gonzalez to just know, hey, we want you. We want to utilize you. So it's good to see.
Yeah, well said. But you guys want to get into the Miami scoring tonight because Miami had some guys too that put up numbers and made it competitive. I'm going to say for the first half of the game, but then it kind of switched up, after halftime, the end of the third into the fourth quarter. The Celtics really built up that momentum and really took it away. But the Miami Heat still had a pretty good game at times.
Yeah, they had a great game. Khalil Ware with 24 points, 14 rebounds, and 27 minutes. He is a star, man. He's going to be in this league for a long time. And the fact that he went 6 for 7 from 3 behind the arc, I mean, that's impressive. He does it all. He's a real talent. And then you have Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, Andrew. Well, I have to say,
I'm definitely not saying Jacku Shionis' name right either. But we're butchering. Shout out Justin. We're butchering it, but but no, Khalil Ware, phenomenal game. Bam had 16 and 10. Norm Powell 18, playing well. I mean, they had guys that really, really did contribute, and so to see the Celtics be able to withstand the Miami Heat and their impressive effort, it was great to see.
Yeah. And I have to add on to that too. I want to say, I thought you were talking about Jaime Jaquez for a minute. And I was like, how'd you butcher that one? But no,
no.
Good stab at that one though. But I have to say too, I think we talked with Amari Williams about, we just talked to him, so that interview will be coming out. But if he had a welcome to the league moment, and if he played tonight, I think Kel'el Ware is another guy who I could see just on the rise. Especially having a great mentor with Bam Adebayo. So I don't know. I like Kel'el Ware, and I think that was another big man matchup that they had. But what about the scoring for the Celtics, Tommy? Because the Celtics ultimately came up victorious, and they had some good scoring tonight too.
Yeah, some solid contributions off the bench. Hauser, probably one of his best games of the season tonight. 15 points, 5 of 6 from behind the arc. Good to see him kind of knock down some shots. Hopefully, get his confidence up moving forward. I think any scoring or any bigger nights we got a Hauser is gonna, just propel this team, and we'll see more wins kind of build up in that column. Anthony Simons, pretty efficient night from him as well. 6 of 10 from the field with 14 points. Hugo Gonzalez, already said his name a few times so far. 10 points, 4. So a lot of nice transition buckets from Hugo, and good to see him knock a 3-ball down as well. And then the two big names in the starting lineup tonight were White and Brown, combining for 63 points. White was 11 of 20 from the field, 9 of 14 from 3. And JB, another Jaylen Brown performance where, you're seeing another 30-point game where I think he had a slower start to the game. I know he had a huge third quarter, and then we saw him kind of get to the free throw line and start knocking down some threes in that fourth quarter. But I feel like he had a quiet 30-point night. A lot of his scoring coming in that second half. But, good to see him continuing to roll, impact the game in many ways. 9 rebounds, 7 assists. So he's just been killing it. But those are kind of the names that stood out to me.
And I want to mention, is it safe to say that these are expected DMPs every night? And we're adding someone new to the list now, because I see Chris Boucher there every night, Xavier Tillman, but Luka Garza has been a guy that we've been seeing constantly too. So I don't know.
I'm a little surprised by that, especially the other night when they played Detroit again. Missoula went with more of a smaller lineup against bigger guys like Duren and Stewart, and tonight same thing, going against Ware and Adebayo. Not really utilizing any of his size off the bench. Mana only getting 7 minutes, and then none of the bigs seeing the floor at all. And it's interesting to me because I feel like early on in the season, Garza was giving them some positive minutes off the bench. Didn't he even win CNR MVP? I'm pretty sure.
He's up there. He's on the board.
So I'm surprised we're not seeing a little more minutes from Garza during certain games where maybe Missoula likes, his energy or certain matchups on the court. But Garza is definitely the one that surprises me the most due to his, ability to score on offense. And, we talked about it earlier in the year, just how hard and relentless he plays when he is out there.
And before you go to Andrew, I have to say one thing that surprised me most, though, is you only had one big playing essentially with Nehemias Queta, and we had 46 rebounds, and we were only out rebounded by 1. The Miami Heat had 47. So I think that's still impressive. And it's like, if the Celtics got a big man, watch out, because it's like, we get a good big man, we're going to be winning that rebound battle every night, because we're already almost there and one big man away from really executing on that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, Tommy touched on Garza, but I'll go Boucher. I was early on in the season, I was pretty convinced that Boucher wasn't he's not your typical big man. He's not like Garza, like Tillman, like Queta. Like, he's more of a stretch guy that plays on the perimeter, can go in the paint, can defend down there, but he kind of fits more, in my opinion, in the mold of Walsh and Hugo and Minot. And I mean, it's just the flat out truth. Minot and Walsh and Hugo are better players than Boucher. So I think we kind of already have guys filling those roles. So Boucher really just isn't. It just isn't necessarily in Joe's mind at the moment. So that's kind of where I think Joe's at with Boucher.
Yeah. Well, do you guys have any final thoughts on the big man before we head into CNR MVP voting for tonight? All right, you guys. Who can I list a top 3 for us?
Yeah. Give us some framework.
All right. I want to go with these three. I want to give an honorable mention. Well, not even. I'm adding him in. Hugo Gonzalez. I think he deserves at least a spotlight on here tonight. So I'm going Hugo Gonzalez, Jaylen Brown, and Derek White. Who we got? You guys start us off.
Honey, you can lead us off, man.
You know what? I'm gonna go D White tonight. I'm gonna go D White. 33 points, knocking everything down. He was playing phenomenal. I'm happy to see Derek White making that impact and really showing us that he's a capable scorer. Because this season there has been this debate: does he have that in his bag? Is he capable of that? Is he more of this secondary kind of option that he can't create on his own? But he did that tonight, and I'm very glad to see that. And JB's got a lot, so let's throw Derek White a CNR MVP tonight.
Tommy, who are you got?
I agree. I think, Jaylen Brown, for him to win MVP every night, he's going to have bigger performances than the 30 points that we saw tonight, just because of how used we've gotten to JB having these performances. So I'm going to go with White as well. He had a slow start to the season, but over these last 10 games, he's been averaging 22 points a game, and just seeing his confidence starting to grow on the offensive end, starting to knock down the three-pointer. And it just opens everything up for other guys. And, I expect Pritchard to kind of bounce back and get hot coming up here, hopefully after Christmas. But yeah, my vote's going to go to D White. He's very deserving of it. And I feel like he hasn't been in many of these MVP talks after wins. So he's due.
Yeah, I gotta say this. I so badly want to give it to Hugo Gonzalez. Like, I think he played phenomenal tonight. I have to say, but when I was watching the game, Derek White was just a sniper out there. And, I'm so impressed how he's picked it up and so impressed on his play as of recently. And especially tonight in this one, had a huge game. So Derek White, second CNR MVP. How we feeling about that, guys? I feel like there was a lot of nerves at the beginning of the season, and now he's at 2, and he's picking it up slowly but surely, So second.
Hey, anytime you can give Derek White an MVP award, I mean that's a good night. That's a good night. We can't give Hugo an award with that. We need more from him because I don't want him to get complacent.
You need more from Hugo or way less from what we saw from White and Brown.
We can't let Hugo get complacent,
And that's the thing. If he had, because I talk about this game all the time where I gave Jaden Springer a CNR MVP. I think it was definitely last year. Geez, only other time I've had the recap. So I gave him one last year. He only had like 4 points, but he had 4 steals in like 2 minutes to decide the game. So it's like,
yeah, I mean, that is big time though. Yeah,
hold something like that on the court, and it was like for the game, that's different. But like, he showed flashes of greatness out there tonight, doing things that you need to do. But ultimately, Derek White affected the game throughout the entire game. He kept the Celtics in there when it looked like the Celtics were going to fall behind. He would come out there with a 3, and he's very efficient tonight. So, and the 4 blocks again. I mean, let's go to White. But do you guys have any final thoughts before we close this one out?
I mean, I'm just really happy to see the team. I mean, we've been talking about it. They're exceeding the expectations of where they started. And I think we keep talking about in this program, it's just helping these players develop even more for the eventual return of Jason Tatum, which is now actually there's a lot more information on it. It's actually going to happen. We don't know the timetable necessarily, but at the moment it's looking like he's returning. So to give these guys these opportunities to grow, to develop, to go through struggles, to fight for rotations, to really just figure it all out. I mean, it's just going to be so beneficial when that time comes. And even if he doesn't, it's still beneficial. So I just like to see this team not rolling over. I'm happy they're just fighting. They lost that Pistons, but they bounced. They lost those last 2 games, but they've decided to bounce back. I mean, this team is showing to me that they can fight through adversity and they can figure it out. And to me, that That's a winning culture. That's a team that you don't want to face.
Yeah.
I'm looking for them to, hopefully stack a few wins together. Toronto and then Indiana, and Indiana back-to-back games. So hopefully they can string a few wins together here and keep climbing in the standings and creating some separation from, the 4 and 7 seed teams. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I have to say I'm just impressed on their chemistry that they've built. Obviously, again, new team, and I talked about this earlier in the season with those first 3 losses, is they haven't built chemistry, but now they're all clicking. They have new guys are, from time to time not doing too much, but the same guys are still out there balling, like Jaylen Brown and Derek White and Peyton Pritchard, and they haven't skipped a beat. So that's what I'm impressed to see. And they've been playing competitively, and it showed, you lost some big guys like Porzingis and Jrue Holiday and even Jason Tatum, but there's still a core in that team, and that core is still out there balling. So anything else though before we close out the first live?
No, go C's, man. Go C's.
Sure.
Well, with that being said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and turn on post notifications. Again, you guys, join us tomorrow for the live as we take on the Toronto Raptors, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night. Peace, guys.